All right, there we go. Now I'm unmuted. and Alan, you're not. There we go.
Yep.
You know, what's funny is every time I do that video, I'm like, I need to do a 3-minute countdown. Like that damn, you're just awkwardly looking at each other. So we're live. Thanks guys for doing this. I appreciate it.
Happy to do it. Glad to be here.
Yes,
awesome.
Likewise.
All right, so for the like one person that was actually waiting 5 minutes for the countdown to get done, this is actually a video that we're shooting that was going to be a recording that we just kind of said, hey, why not do it as a live stream? So again, thank you guys for doing this. Thanks for people checking it out. I'm going to start with just some introductions. On my screen on the top right, I've got Sue Woodard. Now, Sue, by title, it's Chief Customer Officer at Total Expert, public speaker. You've been the founder and CEO of multiple marketing organizations and companies that have had huge impacts in the business. But what exactly is Chief Customer Officer? What?
You know, it's funny when Joe Wellue, our CEO, approached me about this position, I had to ask him, like, is that a real job or is that made up title? Because it almost sounds too perfect for me. But
yeah.
You know, Chief Customer Officer is exactly what it sounds like. My whole focus and what I pay attention to here is our customers. I live it, breathe it, advocate for them, and lead all of the teams that are doing the same on a daily basis, including our family at Loan Depot.
Yeah, which is for many of you, and if you're watching this, chances are you know who Sue is. What makes her such a powerhouse and influence in our business, because she is connected with marketing departments, senior executives at many of, if not all of the top mortgage banks in the industry, talking to them about marketing strategies and talking to them about trends that's going on in the world. So pretty lucky to have you, Sue. And then below, and don't know why you're down there, Alan, but it's good to see you down there. We've got Alan Edgett. He is the CEO of the gig agency. Before being CEO of this, I saw that you were Chief Marketing Officer at multiple firms. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about, if you don't mind, your background being Chief Marketing Officer, Alan, and then what made you start and found the gig agency.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been doing digital since the late 90s. So I've been doing marketing for quite a long time, all digital for various companies, ended up heading up some marketing groups. And what I found was that it's very difficult to staff digital marketing departments because each channel, each thing in digital has its own uniqueness to it. And it's very difficult to ask folks to kind of cross over and do different things. And so I founded the company really to be almost like a temp agency. We kind of plug in where you need, fill in the holes, if you will. If you're trying to build up a marketing department or a small office, et cetera. And so we're happy to work with some of your branch offices as well as you corporate. And so thrilled to be here.
Now, late 90s, was that when like AOL dial-up?
Yeah.
Like, were you doing digital when you had the...
Yeah. I've got, I shaved my gray beard this morning, so you couldn't tell, but I've been around the block. So yeah.
You would grow a full beard while you were waiting for the computer to log in digital back then. That's awesome.
Yeah. There were those discs at the mall too, Alan. Like, you know, they pass them out. Like, oh wow, look at this thing.
That was the digital marketing strategy back then.
I built my first webpage in 1994, believe it or not. So
way ahead of your time.
Yeah,
I love it. And that's where Alan, his expertise on this is going to be huge, because the other hurdle that organizations have is technology just moves wicked fast. Mm-hmm. And so we hire for talent, you know, based upon what's available to us today. But as technology moves, we might not have that skill set in here. And Alan, being in the position that he is, a consultant of major mortgage organizations and other companies out of the industry, he's able to stay on top of those trends and really kind of educate all of the people that he partners with. So again, Alan, thanks for doing this. And covering the goal of what this is, guys, is over the last year, we have done a lot of volume. And I had originators that I would talk to around the country that were saying, look, I'm not even marketing right now, because if I push the send button on this piece of communication, I don't know what I'm going to get in return. And I don't need volume. I don't need any more. I can't market. And so we had originators, in a sense, pause, we'll call it marketing innovation over the last year. But what did not pause is consumer behavior trends continuing to change, technology continuing to advance. And now that we see, obviously, the light at the end of the tunnel with refis are going away, we're going to have to get a little bit scrappy to win the purchase game because of inventory issues and such. We've got to get back into this game of redefining what our marketing plans should be. And while old school marketing plans still work, right? Handwritten cards still work and this and that. There are so many components to a marketing business plan that we've never had to think of before. It's important that we have those discussions and listen and learn from the best, the Sues and the Allens of the world. So to start though, and either one of you can take this, because marketing is kind of this bland thing. I know some originators that just kind of do it because, well, the company said I should subscribe to this and I'll do it. What's the real goal of marketing in today's world? Is it a brand play? Can it actually drive volume? Nowadays, I guess, Sue, just so you guys don't talk over each other, what, in your opinion, what should be an originator's goal when they're thinking about marketing right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would tell you that the thing that I've always been in love with the mortgage industry, and for the originators that are listening, is you get to be kind of the boss of your own business, right? Is you incorporated, and you get to make those determinations, like you were just talking about, Shane, with kind of dialing back maybe on some of your marketing, dialing it back up. I mean, that's a beautiful thing, right? You're really running your business. And so I think depending on where the market is at, and where the market is at right now is obviously trending right back to getting that purchase business. We've got to dial back up that marketing. I think it's just an incredible opportunity to do, yes, get your brand out there. You've obviously got such a powerful brand at Loan Depot. And so I think, in times that are uncertain, for example, people do the flight to quality. And so I think just, that's such a huge advantage that you have with Loan Depot and Mello is that quality. So piggybacking behind that and then plugging your own personal brand into that, as you shift to a purchase market, it's making that connection. It is, you go back to your database of all of the people that came into your database over the past year, getting that repeat and referral business. Most really strong originators are doing marketing, not just, out there to the world, which is critically important for your brand, but also really to tap into that database for that repeat and referral business.
Alan, anything to add on that? Because I mean, you are, with my experience with you, really kind of taking this as kind of a weaponized approach, really trying to get very analytical. When you partner with folks in developing marketing plans, especially on the digital side, what are your goals within creating a marketing plan? How far should originators be reaching?
Absolutely. Yeah. I absolutely think it's offensive, right? And marketing gives you the ability to both position and define yourself. So really, it's the first step in your sales process, which is awesome. These days, consumers, as they've always been, but even more so now, are just bombarded with all sorts of messaging and content. And they have great skills in finding out a lot about you and all of us and all of the brands they choose to do business with. So they're well armed. And so it behooves all of us to be equally well armed and at least put our best foot forward. So it's funny, I've had the privilege of working with some of your larger offices, bigger producers, and they did not take their foot off the pedal. They didn't need the volume at all. But what they did is they used last year as an opportunity to reposition themselves and redefine themselves for the future. So they started taking a very proactive approach, not to get business, but to set the stage for who they are and what they want to be for their branch or for their personal production. So
telling their story, putting kind of a foundation of when people want to go and research them, now they've got that long story, the trail that they can follow, the journey of who they are.
Yep,
I like
absolutely.
it. Now, real quick, because I do want to get into more of teaching techniques and strategies and things like that. But real quick, let's define our target audience. And so when we talk about marketing a mortgage, it's really two populations, right? It's clients and referral partners. Referral partners is huge. I mean, we could do builders and CPAs and financial advisors. In a purchase market, still today, the core referral partner is the realtor. So to keep it simple, we'll talk about that. Sue, you've been working with mortgage banks now for a while. Can you define what the consumer used to be and transition a little bit into what they look like today that's maybe different in terms of your target audience, in terms of the client?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. One thing I would clarify is I think it also, a beautiful thing is you get to decide, and as an originator, who is your target audience? Not necessarily everybody out there is your target audience. You might specialize more in one type of transaction versus another. And so I think it's important to be thoughtful about who is your target audience, right? But I think just when you look broadly at consumers and how consumers have changed, certainly, as you said, the behaviors have changed, and where you're going to find those consumers have changed. We certainly have the millennials coming in as the largest group of homeowners now. I think they're at nearly 40%, according to the NAR. They're doing, obviously, as you said, they're doing a lot of their, they're looking online. I think very interestingly, some of the things that have shifted is people have said, 9 out of 10 people will say, and again, this is the studies, NAR will say this, that 9 out of 10 people are saying that they would use the same agent again, for example, that they would use that same agent again or refer them, but yet only 60% of people, when asked, are using that same agent or have referred them, right? And so there's a bit of a disconnect there. And so I think some of those trends are definitely changing, right? And so where those consumers are, I think just depends very largely on what consumers are you going after, but their behaviors are definitely changing, as they are going, even before the whole fun pandemic, their behaviors with looking and doing a lot of research online. Still, a lot of them are looking for that referral, but some of those behaviors are shifting a bit.
Yeah. Alan, anything to add on that?
Yeah, it's a huge topic, right? And I think the best thing I advise clients that are in industries maybe that haven't yet been fully affected by the changing consumer shifts is to look to sister industries where they were maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ahead, right? I don't think any one of us has ever purchased a product or looked into the fashion area and not recognized that social influential people are having a monstrous effect in retail and in e-commerce, right? Now we're seeing that happen into mortgage and real estate and investment. Just look in the last 3 months, the whole GameStop, Robinhood fiasco on Wall Street. The power of the retail individual to group together, share knowledge, and move mountains is at an all-time high and is going to continue forward. So you don't have to look very far to sister industries to see what effect is happening. And that is how consumers are behaving, and that's how they're being influenced. And so they're going to find their path through these channels, and is vastly different than it was even just 10 years ago when they would primarily maybe go to Zillow or go to Google and search. They now don't even bother with those things. I don't own stock in either of those companies. That tells you where I'm at mentally. Because those models are being pressured by the new, what I call the rise of the influencer or the rise of the creator economy, the people that are kind of having an influential role in various topics.
One thing I would say on top of that, because I think it's such an interesting and important point, is people are attracted to stories, right? And we are in a business of stories, especially when you're in a purchase market. There's a story happening in somebody's life when somebody's purchasing a home. Somebody's getting married, somebody's getting divorced, somebody had a baby, somebody got a new job, right? There's a story happening. And so there is, to Alan's great point, people are attracted to stories, and they're attracted to the human beings that are telling the stories, and so it's just such a powerful thing. When I love the point about really thinking about what are we seeing working in other industries. It is, I like to say that, people don't work with companies, people work with people. And they get attracted to people because of those stories. Yeah.
Well, and what's happening is the platforms that our consumers and any consumer in any vertical are changing, right? And we always say, oh, Facebook and LinkedIn. Well, it's not just that. It's the Twitches of the world. It's the amount of algorithm-based platforms that our consumers are going to right now is huge, and the way that they're using them is different. I dropped my daughter off at the orthodontist this morning, and she was doing. I just received a video communication from my friend. I was like, what is it? And it's just Instagram. Like, they don't even text anymore. They're just sending video messages back and forth. And so the way that they're finding their influencers, but then how they're communicating with one another is changing. The entire, emails, they're not the foundation of our communication anymore. So I do want to jump then. Let's get into tactics and strategies, because I'm still learning, and Alan and Sue, you guys are helping with this. I want to jump into digital ads, because I think that this is one of the most unknown worlds, yet it impacts all of us. Like, if I'm a consumer, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook or anything else, I'm on ESPN.com. There's a digital ad. I don't think a lot of people understand the plumbing behind it. I don't think a lot of individuals understand that they can actually participate in this game. Like, this is not, you don't need to be a big behemoth organization to participate in the digital ad game and have it work for you on a local level. Like, this does not have to be a national play. Alan, can you start to kind of define really what digital ads are for individuals in a market, from your perspective? And I'll start asking some questions and have Sue jump in to really help the education. But can you start to define that out a little bit and what an originator should be thinking about?
Yeah, for sure. So first off, I would change the word ad to content. There is digital content, and it can be promoted via paid tools and unpaid tools. And so a traditional paid piece of content, you might call an ad for sure. But I would just like people to think first about the content. The days of just creating kind of a static advertisement about yourself are probably going away. And instead, you need a dynamic piece of content, something like you're telling a story, something like a video. So focus more first on adding value and expressing yourself, if that's your cup of tea. I always like to put a disclaimer. Not everyone likes doing video, and so then you might need to hire someone like Sue or myself. But produce content that you think is valuable for your customer. Then choose how you promote it, whether you just push it out through your channels, whether you have friends repost it, or colleagues, or build up a network, or whether you pay for it.
Now, let's talk about the pay for. Because when we kind of run through this, I'm going to pivot to Sue, because she is one of the best organic social creators in our industry. Talk a little bit about the pay for and what that means. Is it just, hey, I need to contact this platform and I'm going to put it there and hope that my people see it? Can you get targeted? Talk about the pay for mechanics a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So almost every platform has mechanisms with which to pay for your content to be promoted. And there's almost kind of two ways to do it. Overtly, a lot of the platforms have ad manager platforms where you can go in and look through their targeting selections. And although in our industry and in areas like Facebook, we are in what's called a special category. And by definition, we can't do certain things. So we can't actually go down and just target certain age groups and things like that. Facebook limits our capabilities. But you can still do decent amounts of targeting. So that's on the ad front. The other strategy that still involves money is you can boost or promote your organic content, help it get out further. I mean, the dirty little secret is, unless anyone was confused, Facebook is a for-profit organization. They want your money. Same with Google, same with YouTube, same with Twitch and everything else, TikTok. So even if you're producing great organic content, and I'm sure Sue has a lot of tricks there for you, you probably still need to help it on its way, and you need to expand your reach. And so that's where the paid channels can work.
Now, if I'm an individual originator thinking, I'd really like to boost, recognition within my local community or my local county, can you geographically focus on that? Because I don't want to pay, if I'm in Oregon where I'm at, I don't want to pay for somebody in Texas that a realtor I'm not going to work with. Can you get geographic?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get geographic, and each tool has some different pieces of that. The other thing is these algorithms are fairly smart, as you might imagine. They naturally will reward your content by showing it to people they think will engage in their content. So for a lot of us, actually, if you create content well, that's your first level of targeting. I often tell our clients, like, if you're going to an open house, say, in a particular town, mention the town, post it from that town. If you're on Instagram, for example, just putting the name of the town or, an area that you service. And if that means drive in your car around 10 different little communities in your neighborhood and make a post each day, that's a pretty smart thing to do. And so I have clients that do all sorts of tricks. They find places of interest, for example, in their local communities. Could be a wonderful park, that's very scenic, right? Then they go there and they say, this is the thing I love about Irvine, this beautiful park. Well, that's so smart in a number of ways. You are creating content for your local community. You're saying something educational. And then if you bridge that over to, isn't this a wonderful place to live? If you need to buy a house here, obviously I'm your person. You help the algorithm geolocate it. And so you haven't even done any targeting yet. You've just creatively created content and with that in mind. Then, of course, you can run it as an advertisement, geofence that, or target certain. Of
course, geofencing, a word that we all know, just, talking around the dinner table.
There's all sorts of ways. So I'll dangle one thing. We frequently will find like mobile device IDs. Everyone carries a mobile phone. Although this tactic's kind of going away, that's why I don't mind sharing it. You can pull everybody who's been in a Whole Foods in your community, all the Whole Foods in your community. That's a pretty nice, wealthy demographic, and you can run ads to just people that have been in a Whole Foods in the last 60 days. So you can do quite a lot with targeting. And if you think about that creatively, you can do that across different segments and talk to people differently. It depends on where they shop. So there's a lot of tactics that you can do. But I think first and foremost, it's, as I mentioned, just having that consumer in mind. What would you like them to see? Be creative with your content. Then you can kind of explore paid ads.
So now I know you have some experience in this world. When you guys talk to people who get into digital ads and such, again, kind of one of the first questions I asked, but how much of it are you going after the brand side versus measurable leads? When you're coaching folks on this, do they need an output of, man, I got 5 consumers that are now engaging with me that I'm now possibly going to do a loan with? Where's the balance there?
It depends on who we're talking to, because a total expert, obviously we're talking to a lot of brands who are looking at really driving that brand. But then of course you've got those, the loan officers, those feet on the street are much more interested in not just the global brand, but how are they actually going to drive those leads. And so I love some of the things that Alan just shared about how do you get really scientific with it. I mean, I can certainly talk about some of the content that I know definitely works. But even just some of those tactics he just shared, like I said, I'm scribbling some notes down because I was just really thinking about the geofencing and, going to the park and things like that. But in terms of content, I mean, I think you just hit on so many important things. And I think it's important also just to really, to stop being afraid of doing video. One of the great things that I think happened over the course of the pandemic, I'm always a glass half full girl, so I got to find the bright side, is that we all got very used to seeing ourselves on camera, right? I mean, they say that there's 2 kinds of people out there when you're on a Zoom call, those who are looking at themselves and liars. Everybody's checking, looking at themselves, right? And so the good thing about that is that one of the reasons that people have been a little nervous to go do the really engaging content like a short video is because they're like, oh, I look weird on camera and things like that. And I think we've all gotten collectively a little bit over that. And so that's a really good thing. But like we were talking about earlier, people buy from people. There is a real thing. The digital eye contact is a real thing. Like even as we're sitting here doing, this video and I'm looking at you all, I am actually looking at you all, from time to time, not just myself. But as we're looking at each other's and those who are watching this video, isn't it totally different than if you were just hearing our voices or reading the words, printed on a screen? It's different, right? You make a different connection. And so deep within our human nature, people are attracted to faces. They're attracted to eye contact. And as I was mentioning earlier, people are attracted to a story. So the beautiful thing is that we are literally in a business of stories. And people will say, number one, I don't like how I look on video. And I would say, get over yourself. This is literally what you look like all day long, around, right? So, but it's interesting, again, it is a good thing. We've all gotten a bit over that. So, but then the second piece, just when you think about your content, and maybe I'll even back it up a step further, people also get very thrown by saying, well, I don't have the equipment. You don't need any equipment, like you literally just need your phone. I mean, somebody like Alan can probably make great recommendations of cool ways to up your game technologically, but people use that as an excuse for why they're not doing video. You literally can do it with your own janky phone out in a park and literally make it happen, right? The thing that I would say in terms of actually is content, one of the things that I focus on a lot, I'm always, doing something to try to really tie it into Total Expert, of course, not always. But it is always about somebody else. It's always about something else. I'm not, you'll never catch me going on social media and being like, and I won an award today. And so it's not, because that's, boring, yuck. But we're in a business, again, of stories. And if you're, not sure about what to open your inbox is loaded with interesting stories. Every single person on this call, you've got probably 25 different interesting stories going on right now that you can share. You don't have to say people's names. You don't have to, get detailed with it, but you've got cool stories that you can share. The other thing that I would say is to, short and sweet. I think people's attention spans have gotten very short. I mean, I personally say, Alan, I'd love your thoughts. I always try to keep it under 60 seconds. If I'm longer than 60 seconds, I feel like I've probably lost them, right? But be also thoughtful of, what do you want people to do? Is there something you want them to do after they watched your short video? And I think that's one of the great things just to think about, is to get in the habit of just doing those videos, but just give them something to do. Click on the thing, learn here, you can read more about this here. And you don't always have to have something to do. I think one of the most important things is just literally doing it. Don't over engineer, don't over manage, don't over edit. I mean, I mess up on videos all the time, but you know what? It is 1 out of probably 50. And it's usually if I've just like accidentally sworn or something, that I'll ever like stop and redo it again. I mean, it's just cut it and go and send it. Alan, I'd love your thoughts on, I always tell people kind of middle of the week, middle of the day. I mean, I know it depends on the platform, but I'd love any insights that you have on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think, it kind of depends on what we were talking about before, of who your target audience is. I think the different channels have different styles. So YouTube is more long form. So if you're a person who you don't maybe feel comfortable in a 1-minute setting, which I agree with, most people's attention span on Instagram has to be less than 60 seconds for sure. But if you wanted to go on and on maybe and do like more like this show, then YouTube might make sense for you. And you could do that maybe even every 2 weeks. Right? That cycle could be slower. Instagram and some of those things, I would say you probably should be focused on every day and doing a little story. And like I said, popping around to different parts of town or going to open houses or visiting clients. You can do it in the life of, doesn't have to be formal, to your point, can be done right off your phone. And definitely I would keep it short and sweet. People also love inside baseball. They love when people who are experts share tips or tricks or things they're seeing in the industry. You guys have some of the best actually that work for you. Check out Min anytime you want at whatsamortgage.com. The guy is just incredible, sharing just little tricks about, mortgage business, small things, difference between FHA and conventional, and then he'll just riff on it for 60 seconds. People who are in the audience, they don't know anything about this space. They love that and they appreciate his transparency. And,
what? I gotta tell you, Alan, that's a really important point. Just to piggyback on that for a second, is that sometimes I think we forget, when you've been in the mortgage industry for a while, you forget that not everybody knows what we know. And so we tend to be like, oh, well, everybody knows this and that. I read a stat the other day, some like stunning stat that like something like 74% of people still honestly think you have to put 20% down.
Right.
Like,
you're kidding.
Yeah.
It was this unbelievable number of people that I'm thinking, and I think we forget about that. The other thing too is we forget sometimes that people are, they're nervous about this process. Think of all the very personal questions that we ask people. It's like literally all the things that your parents said. Don't ask people how much money they make, how much money they have in the bank, how much debt they have. Like those are the things you'd never ask. Oh, we ask that with wild abandon, and we don't think about how do we educate people behind that.
Mm-hmm. The other part of that is we talked about the realtor side, the referral side, right? So you have a whole industry of people who themselves are trying to promote themselves. So they're out there showing open houses, congratulating their buyers. And that industry, I would say, is even more forward thinking than the mortgage industry. In terms of the realtors, I think have been a little more proactive. Now they have those wonderful homes to show, and it's always nice to do videos, to look at this kitchen. And so they have some things that maybe the mortgage professionals don't. So piggyback on them. Spend a half an hour every morning going out and commenting on some of the realtors in your neighborhood who are making great content, and try to be thoughtful, educational, and polite, and just make comments on their feeds. So many wonderful things will happen. People will see your comments and maybe come over and follow you. The realtors will certainly notice. Many times they'll give you a thumbs up or they'll like your comment on their page because you're just helping them. And so the next time you need a realtor connection, you can reach out and they've heard of you and, oh, I see you've posted on my page a number of times, et cetera, et cetera. Let's do business. So as a recruitment tool for yourself to build your own network from a B2B perspective, you should also be out there. So even if you don't like getting in front of the camera, you can be active on social media kind of behind your brand name.
How much time a day? So now we've moved a little bit into organic. I am going to ask a couple questions on digital ads in a second, but on the organic social media, this is what you're really hinting at now. Mm-hmm. How much time do you spend on engagement? Because at the end of the day, we do have day jobs too. Right?
Yeah,
we actually have to, like do mortgages and this and that. How much effort to make an impact on your business do you need an engagement? Is it 10 minutes a day, 30 hour? What's it look like?
It depends. I'll give you one stat. We took over a branch, and in the last 90 days or so, by spending about 2 hours a day. So, we had a staffer on our team dedicated. So she played the role of the page owner. She spent about 2 hours a day going out, an hour in the morning, hour in the evening, commenting on other people's content. And we've grown their audience about 40% in about 90 days, which, wow, is a pretty huge thing. So from a cost-effective, time-effective judgment, it's a pretty good deal. And like I said, it has a number of benefits, not just, A, do you seem like you're contributing to the community and you're helping out, realtors or other folks in your industry. B, you're being educational to potential consumers. And C, you're growing your audience, which in this day and age, people judge you on your social presence points and how big you are. It's kind of like the old days of, do you have a website? Now no one cares if you have a website. They want to see, do you have, a couple hundred followers on Instagram? And so that's how they're going to judge you anyways. When they do choose to do business with you, you might as well build that asset up. So, it's time well spent. Now, if you're also going to produce content, content production does take time. There's no doubt about it. It doesn't have to be formal. To Sue's point, it can be informal, but it does take time. There's no way to minimize that. However, if you're clever, oftentimes you can produce series of contents. We view everything in a funnel. So we build these funnels of content, and then you can run ads on that funnel of content over and over and over and over again. So while the initial load of content work is can be, you could set aside a week or something and really film a lot of content. You can then repurpose that content with paid advertising throughout the year. So that is where paid ads can really help promote your brand when you're working. Yeah,
the content pyramid, do one to become 10. In that regard.
Absolutely. We view everything like the top level. Your first and foremost focus should be on engagement. So producing content that other people will, first off, watch. That's it, right? Get them to watch at least half of the video, like, share, comment on. Those are all wins, right? And then you retarget those people who have done so with advertisements that's designed to get them to do something. Download a white paper, a guide, visit your website, fill out a lead form. And
going back to what Sue said, always, when you put out content, have them do something like engage.
It could just be follow our page for more, or it could be download this, mortgage guide or a 90-day plan or whatever it is that you might have produced. And that could be something your CRM system sends out automatically. So that's a nice, and then the last thing, of course, you want them ultimately give you their contact information or raise their hand that says they want to do business with you. So.
Got it. Gotcha. Now, when you are entering this world, we've said a lot of stuff, right? Content, geofencing, to bring that word back up, retargeting, having your CRM send systems. I hate to say it, this is why a lot of people don't do it, because it feels like a lot. Is there a way of getting into paid digital content, not to use the ad word, that you corrected me on? Is there a way of getting into that and dipping your toe into it and kind of easing into it? Can you do it on your own? Do you need an agency, to get started in that?
Yeah, you can absolutely do it on your own. I mean, certainly I'd be remiss to say it doesn't hurt to call folks.
It does not.
But you can do it on your own, and you don't need to boil the ocean. And I would say, that is where a focused approach in a geographic sense, like, if you're a person in San Diego, for example, and that's your place of business, even focusing more on, say, VA loans or something that you personally like, and now you're talking to a military person, and maybe you have some background in that or something, so the lingo. The more you can focus, then the smaller you can dip your toe in the water easier, and it's not as burdensome. But it's funny, everyone says that when automation is the key. But if 20 years ago or 15 years ago, we would recommend to a young loan officer that they need to get out there, they need to go to PTA meetings, they need to bring donuts every Monday and every Friday, right? And you need to build those relationships in office. You need to go present. Well, that's a lot of work too. So these are all sales tactics. Yes, they are work, but here at least the advantage is once you set up these automations in this system, you can take a step back and they will produce while you're asleep. They can be automated tools in that way. So. And I think if you look across the Loan Depot system, you're seeing some branch offices that are really, really cranking because they've dialed in their digital very well. So.
Well, and if you look around the industry, what on the surface and a lot of it is genuine engagement. People that are influencers in our industry, they are engaged in social. They are doing live streams. They're doing interviews. They are commenting on other people's posts. But what's unknown is a lot of them do pay for support. They do have some outsourced help with whether it be content creation or the mechanics of placing digital ads.
Right.
And there's a comment that you two made that I think is very pointed. We have a lot to learn from the real estate community. On the real estate side, the thing that is different about them is they're individual franchises in a lot of cases. Sure, they work for Keller Williams or Coldwell, but at the end of it, they're their own beast. And so they have to invest into their own teams and their own infrastructures and figure things out. And whenever you talk to a top real estate team, one of the things they say is, I reinvest in my business. I spend some of the money I make to go build more systems and tools and brand and marketing. We as originators have to think of it in the same way. If I know that digital marketing and digital ad space is vital, right? Sue, you talked about corporate branding a little bit. It's happening more in our business right now. Yes, we're in it, but so is our competitors. Look at Rocket, look at Quicken, heck, even locally, I saw Guild commercials, right?
Yep.
But brand is a broken math formula. It's a 1 + 1 = 3 situation.
Yeah.
And if I know that I can bring my 1 to get to the 3, I'd rather just invest in somebody who knows how to do it, so it gets me to A to B faster. And
the thing I would say, Shane, I think the important takeaway from this is we've got, folks who are sitting here, listening to this, maybe multitasking a little bit while they're doing it, right? Probably the most important thing that you could do is time block a little bit of time to research this and learn more, learn more about what Alan is doing and his agency is doing. Time block, if you just say, hey, I'm not doing enough because I'm just busy, right? It's the end of the day and all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, I didn't post anything on social. One of the things I do is I just time block a couple of slots a week for, 20, 30 minutes. And sometimes I mow over it, but I try to really keep that time just so I have that time to post something. But if you haven't carved out time to really even be able to be thoughtful about your digital strategy and how you might work with, again, somebody like Alan, how you might use some of the other amazing tools that, I just know there's a lot of folks with a lot of power at their fingertips that they just haven't, and I'm going to say honestly, they just haven't had the time or really the need to necessarily dig into. Things have changed. And so rather than putting one more thing on your to-do list and saying, oh, let me just, I got to check that out someday, like literally right now, go ahead and multitask while you're listening to this. Block out a little time to say, hey, I want to learn more about what Alan does. I want to learn more about, the things that maybe I have, at my fingertips that I can be utilizing. Maybe I do put a little recurring block just to do my own social. I just think that you're exactly right that there is no incredibly successul real estate agent or loan officer who is not doing this, right? Yep. But the only way that it's doing is if you're not doing it at all, you got to block out the time for your brain to actually be able to say, what is it that I need to do? What actions do I need to take? Rather than just having it become one more of those things that it's like, someday when I have time.
And to use a word, block, I've always had a mental block when it comes to digital and social because I'm used to, I measured work in how many conversations directly am I having, or Originator would measure, how many realtors did I meet face to face, how many appointments, how many files did I work on? It feels like tangible work. And when people, working is not engaging on someone's post. That's just what my kids do at night. Sue, what you're saying is no, you actually, it is work. Yeah. You have to, well, it's different than what we did 10 years ago. And Alan, to your point, the more engagement that you're doing on these realtor social posts, they see your name, you're going back and forth, it turns into a side conversation. Yeah, it's work. And maybe it's not looking at a W-2 pay stub and evaluating if this person is creditworthy. Yeah. But it's building your business from a marketing perspective.
Absolutely. I can't emphasize that point enough. Everyone probably listening has an email database, and they've been told that the email database that they have is a valuable asset.
Yeah.
Well, your social following is a more valuable asset by probably a factor of 3 to 10. I'm on the 10 side than your email database. If I had 10,000 followers on my Instagram and you had 10,000 emails in your database, I will crush you. Probably by a factor of 10. That's how powerful my influential network of social media followers is relative to your declining interest email database, because people are just not reading email as much anymore. So
it's almost like you knew where I was going to go. Like this is, here, I'll just hand you the questions I got. That was great because I want to pivot into direct marketing for maybe the last 5-10 minutes here. But I do want to ask just one question that will then kind of be the segue into the direct email text communication. can you have too much content out there on social or digital ad? Can you do it too much?
No.
Right. Which now pivots into direct marketing. That is a part of the marketing strategy that we need to put thought into, because in that world, you can have too much.
Correct.
If I get 3 emails from somebody a day, yeah, that's only going to last about 2 days before they're completely out of my, into my spam folder, right? If I, like a stalker, start getting texts with videos at 5 times a day, yeah, that's immediately using the Apple feature, block this caller. Sue, especially because, with what Total Expert does and you guys building infrastructures for companies based on this, right? In some ways, right? Helping them stay and nurture their past clients, nurture realtors. Can you talk about some of the trends and strategies that you're seeing work, in today's day and age? Because I still remember when this world got invented, and it was, we were joking before we went live, recipe cards. They're going to love me because of recipe cards. Clearly, that's a depreciating asset.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing in direct marketing right now?
Everybody knows where to find a chicken recipe now. So don't get it from
and I
us.
still can't cook it, by the way. I'm still awful, but anyway.
That's what DoorDash is for, everything's better. So, but no, I agree with you. And certainly it is something that we're talking about all the time at Total Expert is, talking about all the different channels. Alan just made such a great point is why we, believe and have all of our tools surrounding social, surrounding, all of the different things that you're doing, both with your referral partners and with your customers and your database. But to exactly that point about kind of how much is too much, what are you doing? There's a couple key trends that we're definitely seeing. And one of the biggest trends, just technology wise, is it's kind of out with the drip campaigns and in with intelligent automation, or journeys is what we call them, right? Where you're able to actually craft a journey that is going to be appropriate for this person based on, how they are reacting or not reacting, with your content, right? You can tell when something has been opened, when it hasn't been opened, what timing, you can go down different paths in terms of what should the delays be based on what you're learning about this person. So again, we call it intelligent automation or journeys. And so that's one of the bigger trends that we're seeing. It's not the old, like, well, I'm just going to drip this on their head 10 times, once every few days, and then we'll see what happens. And then, they drop off the cliff. I guess they didn't want to buy anything from me. It's just like, that's, very old school. Today's consumer is really expecting that you do know them and you start to know them, and that you, and people are, it's funny how when people talk about data, and I know there's just such a powerful amount of data, and there is a lot of power in data. Sometimes you just need to ask some questions also to tie some of those pieces together, right? Sometimes it's okay just to ask the questions of a consumer, and then you can really start to craft something that feels like a very, and really is a very personal journey. I think, content, to go to Alan's point too, attention spans are short. People aren't reading long emails. It's just like a very short form. Here's the message. Here's the link to more education. Again, making it about what is it this person actually wants to know based on where they're at, because your messaging can get you in trouble really fast. You think about a message that you're going to send to a boomer who's, maybe interested in their 7th house versus, Gen Z first time buyer. It's totally different messaging. It's totally different channels you're communicating through, and having the technology in place to help you learn and then really create a great path for that consumer to follow, regardless of the channel, regardless of if it is text, if it's email, whatever channels you're communicating through. It's the consumers now expecting that you're going to go down the path that they would like to go on, not try to force them down the, bang on your head 10 times.
Generic Happy St. Patrick's Day flyer.
Right.
Which is one of the underspoken things that our industry honestly needs to improve on. Again, taking a tip from realtors is our CRM. There's so many originators that are not natural CRM users. It's almost this thing that they're afraid of. If we know that consumers want to be spoken to, not just be one of the audience, but they actually want this personalized communication. Unless you're prepared to shoot 1,000 videos, saying, hey, Tom, hey, Susie, hey, Bobby, and just kind of going one by one down an Excel spreadsheet, you have to lean in to CRM technology. Yep. You've got to lean into, as you had said, technology that's going to measure output, right? Okay, great. I sent this. How many people looked at it? Who looked at it? What am I going to do with that? How am I going to respond to it?
Well, more importantly, even guide you to the next action. You know, I mean, the last thing, because I originated for a long time, the last thing that I wanted is, oh yes, please give me one other technology that I have to learn, where I have to go in and like figure out my password and learn a bunch of things. You know, the most powerful technology is what's making the magic happen for you, right? Where, you know, your data is flowing in, insights are flowing out to you as the originator to take action on, turning those insights into actions that are easy for that originator to take.
How important is, and is there a place in it? Because what you're talking about is marketing at scale, right? You know, but still personalized to them. How important is infusing your own content into that journey, right? Because companies are providing this content. You know, you go to any mortgage bank at this point, many of them are using Total Expert. Look, you got a library of content right here that you can plug into. It's done for you. There's technologies that are enabling, I can put my own video into the journey so they can see my face, not the generic HTML. How important is personalization from the deliverer's perspective?
Well, I'll give my perspective, and then I'd love to hear Alan's take. What I would tell you is it's not either or, it's both and. And I would also say the best communication that you're doing is the communication that's actually going out, right? And so I would, and what I mean by that is that, yes, we are big advocates of saying, hey, we know what the best practices are. We're going to arm you with all the best practices. Turn them on, right? Don't make it another to-do list of like, well, but I can't turn those on until I go in and craft personalize everything. Like, yeah, make that a journey that you go on where you start to, you know, infuse more of your own personal brand in it, but don't not do that marketing and do that communication because you feel like you've got to be at 100% personal everything.
Yeah.
You know, to the gates, right?
Yep. Alan, what are your thoughts? You know, because you know, in your space, right, with digital ads and placement, I can have a corporate something or other, or it can be me. You know, in this type of direct, you know, communication to consumers, where is the originator inserting themselves and their own, you know, their own words, their own voice in the process?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a balance, right? You can do corporate branding material, and but obviously, I would still highly encourage you to do individual stuff. I like email for transactional information or information that I need the borrower to keep for a long period of time, right? So I think anything that is in that nature, so long-term guides are good, you know, to send via email because I want to store that on my computer, or obviously anything that's pertinent that I need to store. What I don't like are content-heavy emails that assume the person's going to read them and watch these things. And then you shove that down in, like Sue was saying, an old-fashioned drip. I don't like that. Instead, I would take that same content and post it in a series of pieces, whether it's text or video, on your social channels. And the reason is that lets the consumer come to you when they're ready to consume it. And the internet has a wonderful way of keeping your content forever. So it's evergreen. So they can discover it at their pace, and it just sets the conversation up totally different. They appreciate you as an expert. You will be a total expert at that point. And then they've approached you on their time frame rather than you trying to, you know, cram stuff down their throat. So I think email has a place, but I wouldn't use it to generate much new business. It's a great way to remind people who's done business with you in the past. Generating new business needs to be done, in my opinion. That's where paid ads have and organic work together to have a nice combination.
Yeah. That was such a good slide in there. They will be a total expert. That was good. I like it. All right. So
warmed my heart.
you guys are amazing because I mean, I'm looking at how long I've been doing this. So one just question on that and then I want to just one last kind of ending question. Direct marketing, again, whether it's email, whether it's text message, I've got your contact information. I'm going to deliver this content to you. For nurtured relationships. So consumers maybe you did a loan for last year, or realtors what is the frequency? What am I aiming for? How often do I touch these people in direct communication? What's too much?
So you want to go?
Well, Alan, you go first. You'll know the scientific, you'll know the more scientific.
Personally, I would do it infrequently with high quality, meaning I would be very thoughtful about how and what I was going to try to share to do the nurture. And I would try to move them over, as I mentioned, to platforms that they can pick and choose from at their leisure. So I might send out an email blast saying, hey, everybody, I've built a 12 video library on my YouTube channel, and I really think it's helpful for refinance. And I know we've done business in the past. If you're ever thinking about refinance, I think head on over to my channel and you can see a whole bunch of videos there. I would do that like once a month or once a quarter, even high quality, low frequency, rather than the opposite of just pounding them every week with a
Wicked smart. Yeah.
So.
Yep. I totally agree with that. I would say it also depends on, what has the person shared with you about what they need, kind of to Alan's point about transactional. I do think that, there's a fair amount of communication that you do want to have in the middle of a transaction that I don't want when I'm just a lead in somebody's database. During a transaction, again, being mindful of the fact that people are going through something and they're stressed out, approval and money and their home and, all these kind of high stress things. I think during that transaction, I don't want to say there's not such a thing as too much, but if heavy communication in that moment is really important. But being mindful of, again, if you've got a lead that is telling you, hey, I'm like, I got to buy in like 30 days because we're relocating and this is happening. This is the beauty of, again, having intelligent journeys where you're able to say, okay, this one, you need a little bit more for frequent communication. Somebody else that's, the guy you met at the golf course that said, oh yeah, I might buy sometime in the next few years, different path. And I like very much what Alan just shared about, sending out something that can lead them to the place where your content is, where people can go, on their own time. I think that's a brilliant insight.
And you can always grab those individual pieces, put those on social, use those, the social posts to pull them back into the full journey ecosystem as well. Very good. I like it. All right. So if Sue and Alan haven't convinced you to follow them on every single platform that they're on, you're crazy. Sorry. But beyond that, though, who do you two follow or what podcasts? Because, we're almost at 50 minutes, which is amazing. This flew. Where should people go to follow and listen to see where marketing trends are changing to? Like, do you guys have any recommendations in that? Books that you've read, authors, anything?
Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, it was you gave us a heads up, and for 50 minutes I've been trying to think. I actually, just to keep going on my theme, I would highly encourage everyone to just Google the $80 strategy. You'll end up over on Gary Vee's page because he invented it. And I just think while he's it's a little old or a little dated now, it's still a great strategy. It teaches you how to be proactive in social on the organic side. And I think that's probably the easiest and single most impactful thing you could do to get started, rather than send you down a rabbit hole of paid ads. But I'll maybe I can text you some other influential folks on the paid side too, Shane. You can
appreciate it.
Channel.
I have a couple suggestions. I would say that we, a total expert, we do have a podcast called Fresh Takes, which is kind of fun. We bring in, again, it's not about us, it's about bringing in people who are experts. In fact, Alan will probably be tagging you a little later to come on as a guest. But, we talk to people who are influencers in marketing in our industry and hear what they're doing that's working. And so that's kind of a fun one. The other thing, I actually have 2 books that I was going to recommend. One is James Robert Lay, Banking on Digital Growth. So he's, to Alan's point earlier, again, James Robert Lay, Banking on Digital Growth. To Alan's point earlier, it's interesting to look to different industries. Banking is obviously very closely related to what we're doing in lending. In some cases, we are banks. But there's just some really incredible thought leadership and tactics that he's got that I think is really good. The other book I would recommend is this one here, which is Edu Marketing, by a friend of mine, Ginger Bell. Basically what it is, though, is it's a mortgage video planner. And so it literally kind of walks you through ideas for a video to record and then gives you a little template to fill out, like what's your
that's amazing.
And so it's a really cool, simple idea to just kind of, help with those thought prompters.
Put the training wheels on for people looking to get engaged and give them a script and plan to follow. I love it.
Yeah.
I should also mention Clubhouse is actually an interesting place to go and listen. There's a lot of rooms that, or folks like myself, go into and chat and tell you tips, tricks, and things we do. So if you haven't checked out Clubhouse, it might be worth a while.
Can I just tell you the saddest thing? I'm a droid, and I cannot come onto Clubhouse.
Well, that's your fault. I'm sorry. That's your fault. That's your poor choice.
By everyone I know, they're like, come to Clubhouse. I'm like, can't.
Yeah, true.
That's so funny. All right, you guys, you're awesome. Thank you. I know you have both of you just a ton on your plate. Thank you so much. Anybody, again, make sure you follow Sue. Make sure you follow Alan. They are some of the best thought leaders within marketing in our space that we can find. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to reach out to me. I can ask them directly if that helps you. But you too, you rock. So thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.